Babes was not on my radar at all. It's got the feel of a quaint buddy movie that could be a Netflix original. It's funny, heartfelt, very crude, but is it worth paying to see? Babes follows inseparable childhood best friends, Eden and Dawn, having grown up together in New York City, now firmly in different phases of adulthood. When carefree and single Eden decides to have a baby on her own after a one-night stand, their friendship faces its greatest challenge. So we've got Ilana, Glazer, and Michelle Buteau playing Eden and Dawn respectively. We're instantly shown their charismatic dynamic right from the opening scene. And just in the first few minutes alone, we can see the film isn't afraid to venture into crude and traditionally unladylike behaviors. I mean, we've seen plenty of raunchy, guy-centric films, but female-led crude comedies, they're not nearly as prevalent. And the two nail the comedy and they capture endearing personalities and interactions. While the story focuses on both of the women, the main driver for the story is Eden. We see most of the world through her perspective, illustrating her strength and self-reliance, but also her immaturity and a sort of relational stuntedness that comes as a result of her less-than-ideal upbringing. Now, Glazer can sometimes be a little abrasive as Eden, but when you see the true heart of the character and how so many of the actions and behaviors are just cries for acceptance and belonging, the annoyances can fade into the background in favor of seeing a person put on a strong front, but one who is timid and fearful still underneath. Now, Glazer's comedic delivery, it works by combining clever wit with a hilariously disconcerting directness. She calls it like she sees it and typically does not pull any punches. But if you're offended by strong women, just show yourself out, because this features two who know their value and their worth, and they're not afraid to put it out there. The retorts and the observations from Eden, they're quick, sometimes pointed, but also scarily accurate. And because she's so direct with her words, the delivery can be a little abrupt. But that's also what makes her so funny. She catches characters off guard so that their reactions complement her snappy humor. And Buteau isn't one to be left in the background when it comes to the comedy either. She is smart and opinionated, and the realism in which she expresses displeasure or annoyance, it's very relatable. But she also still retains a level of softness, even when calling someone out on their crap. Buteau is Dawn, and she's much more the adult between she and Eden. She's got a family, thriving career, and now two littles that are absolutely exhausting her. Now, these scenarios work to build a lot of humor, especially if Eden is also involved. And there's a scene that involves Eden babysitting for Dawn and her husband. Now, most of us will watch what transpires and laugh, but also cringe because we know what some of the outcomes are going to be. And later in the story, when the punchline comes, it's perfectly timed, and it made me laugh out loud. And I appreciate the patience that the film took before finishing up that joke. It wasn't an immediate payoff, and that's what made it even funnier. Now, in addition to the two leads, we get some excellent comedic support from John Carroll Lynch, Hasan Minhaj, and Oliver Platt. Now, each of them has a different influence on the comedy, but none of their inclusions felt forced or even extra. They play the roles perfectly, using whatever screen time they had to maximize the humor, and also just the feel-good nature of the story. There's an ongoing gag with John Carroll Lynch's character of Eden and Dawn's OBGYN. And the story, it doesn't try to hide this or play coy with the joke. I mean, it's called out every time, and it gets funnier and funnier as it goes along. Hasan Minhaj plays Dawn's husband, and I love his dynamic with Buteau. Underlying everything, there's a huge amount of love, respect, and support. But they also can bicker here and there, adding relatability without being mean-spirited, and that just creates a sweet and encouraging relationship. Now, Oliver Platt has a very minor role in this, but the way he portrays Eden's father is raw and a little heartbreaking. There's a genuineness to his delivery so that we feel all of his emotions. And intertwined all throughout his awkward conversations are small bits of humor that only work because of his excellent timing. Now, there are a couple of other supporting cast members who add to the narrative, and they use their screen time to build up the engagement of the story. Keith and Kenneth Lucas bounce off each other just with spectacular wit. They finish each other's sentences, but in ways that make a somewhat mundane conversation into one that elicits a ton of laughs. And then there's Stephen James. He's the one-night stand Eden hooks up with. And while he doesn't have a massive amount of screen time, he exudes charisma and charm. The short time that we see him with Eden, they share looks and honest words that make all that follows believable and heartfelt. Now, as with most buddy comedies, there is the requisite strife and drama that does come about, so that the film is certainly predictable in that area. But the progression of the events that lead to the friction between characters, it grows in a natural way. And when the story reaches that point when characters start squabbling or experiencing misunderstandings, we've already spent a good chunk of time with them, so everything flows without feeling like an abrupt tonal change. And I also appreciate that while the tension is high, it's both not rushed towards resolution, but it doesn't last so long to break down our connection to the characters and their friendship. Now, the movie's just a bit under 2 hours, and it never outstayed its welcome. The time passage within the story, it doesn't belabor every minutia that the characters experience, and while we do get some minor time jumps, they're not so drastic that it feels as if we've missed out on important events or exchanges. Each of the beats, they're timed to create small moments that are then accentuated by humor or drama, and both of them work effectively. Now, I was really surprised at how sucked into the story I became. I went into this movie completely blind, and I came out with a massive smile on my face. I laughed out loud multiple times and was captivated by the genuineness of the friendship that we watch play out. Now, I do think that this feels a lot like a Netflix or other streamer type production rather than a traditional studio film, but that's not really a bad thing. This isn't meant to be a cinematic masterpiece with revolutionary cinematography and jaw-dropping sound design. It's a feel-good friend movie that plays up the laughs while mixing in some crude and abrupt humor with heartfelt and relatable emotion. So overall, Babes is a hilarious look at lifelong friendships with two witty and clever leads who enthrall with their charm. The story balances the humor with drama to craft emotional exchanges while never sacrificing relatability for the sake of a punchline. Ilana Glazer and Michelle Buteau exhibit astounding chemistry, so that even when personalities clash or feelings get hurt, their collective charisma shines through, providing smiles and tears through honest exchanges. There's sex, some slight nudity, a crap ton of profanity, and then no violence. I give Babes 4.5 out of 5 couches. So have you seen any feel-good movies lately that are just worth checking out? Let me know about them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.